Hello, gentlemen. I am joined by the team behind the team, the management at the Rocks. We've got Sean and Mitchell from the Rocks. Hello, gentlemen. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Well, thank you.
Good. Okay, so we've put some questions out to the fans on our pages, and we have a list of questions to go through with you. Are you ready?
Never.
Yes.
Okay, so first one's quite easy. You can answer this separately if you wish. What is it that you do in your role in the Rocks? What is your job in the Rocks?
I'll let you go first.
Well, we go first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So my role right now is I'm the game day manager and I'm also the COVID officer for the Glasgow Rocks. So I'm in charge of everything match day related, from ticketing to merchandise to also all making sure the fans all come into games, making sure there's any issues with referees, with table officials, anything on match day is me, basically. COVID officer, I'm also in charge of making sure all of the procedures are followed, make sure everyone is safe, both within the office and within the team. So on away trips as well, and on home games and home practices.
Okay. Sean?
Yeah, I'm general manager, so general obviously covers quite a large area. It can be everything from travel to making sure, our social media accounts are in place, making sure everyone knows what they're doing, liaising with pretty much everyone, sponsors, being a point of contact for decisions and stuff like that. It kind of involves everything. It's a very, very role, in fairness. It's hard for me to say really what I go in and do every day because it's almost never the same thing every day. But yeah, general manager, just generally manage.
So their next question then, you probably touched on that a wee bit. The next question was, what does a typical day in the office look like? Although I suppose that's probably quite different at the moment as than last year would have been.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I mean, I think as Sean's already touched on, our days in the office are never the same. There's never a typical day with the Rocks. There's always something else that comes up that we can't plan for, or just different things happen with sponsors, with ticketing issues, with stuff in the arena, COVID stuff, you name it, every day's dynamic. And right now, our typical day is where we are right now. We're at home. We'll have one day a week we go in the office, and then we're in on game days and doing all the prep work for that. And that's about it.
Okay, so and I suppose the kind of build up, are you busier in the build up to a game day, I take it then, than you are sort of, maybe the start of the week before it, that type of thing?
Yes and no. It's different, I'll say that. Because we don't have the fans in, the whole ticketing side of things is no longer there, and that's no longer taking on a lot of the time as it was previously. But on the other side of things, now I've got to make sure that we've got all the track and trace in place from both teams, making sure all the protocols are followed, making sure that the cameras are working properly, making sure that all the playlists and all the referees and officials have everything they need. So it's very different to how it was. I wouldn't say one's easier than the other one. They just have different challenges.
Yeah. Traditionally, a home game is a little bit harder than an away game, just because, as I said, the ticketing and stuff like that. What it's probably worth saying is we're not properly in our mojo yet. I mean, bear in mind, usually we'd have a couple of games pre-season. We've only had a couple of games so far. So we're only just starting to get into the swing of things, making sure all of our boards are now in place. There's a lot, well, not a lot, but there's a fair amount of lessons learned from the first game we had against Cheshire to the game against, I was about to say Newcastle, sorry, against Manchester. So just we're tweaking things and stuff like that. So we're still not properly got in the set game day kind of routine that we would normally be in. Probably worth mentioning, but it'll get, as we get more into that, it will become a bit easier and we'll get into the flow of things.
I think that's probably the same everywhere, though, isn't it? This is a whole new world, and as you go on, the first time you'll do things, and then it's like, oh, why did we do that? Right, we need to change that, and you'll just refine it, won't you? Because I mean, you must be the first indoor sports to happen in Scotland, anyway.
Yeah, we've certainly had every indication that's the place. And speaking to Sport Scotland and stuff, I don't think they've said there was anything else really going on. Certainly at this level. So no, it seems to have been the case. And there was a lot of scrutiny, and Mitchell will tell you about that. There was a lot of scrutiny going on, a lot of scrutiny going on from that first game in particular, just to make sure everything was in place beforehand. So what happens is every club has to assign a COVID officer role, which also Mitchell is for us, and it involves making sure that there's a huge amount of paperwork that has to be signed off, risk assessments, so all the kind of really fun stuff that Mitchell loves getting himself thrown into. So I'm probably better letting him speak about it, but that role encompasses a lot, and it's also involved with speaking to the arena and things like that as well, and refining processes. So it does lead into what we're saying, where we're learning from each game. Literally, there was a meeting after the game against Cheshire, just to say, right, what went right, what went wrong, what could be changed, what feedback have we received. So we're working on that in all aspects, I suppose, even including that you would have noticed perhaps our interviews at the end of the game in Cheshire. We realised there was an issue with the audio, so we bought audio equipment, so that if you look at the ones that came out from Manchester, the audio was a lot better and stuff. So we are refining and getting things better.
I think Sean pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's very much like everyone else. Our game days are completely dynamic, and based on what's going on with the guidelines in Scotland and England, everything can change very, very quickly. So that can be that, for example, we're allowed to have a certain number of people in 2 specific zones on game days right now. If the tiers get worse, that could go less. If the tiers loosen, it could be more. But we have to constantly review everything, and we get feedback not just from the Emirates Arena staff. We also get feedback from officials, from the other teams, and see what they think, what they're doing by comparison, and seeing what can we do to make it better. And the whole thing is that we want to be one of the safest places to play in the whole of the UK. And as far as I'm concerned, we're getting there. It's just a matter of how do we keep doing that at a consistent rate and make sure that everyone is being safe in the process. And
it's probably worth saying that both of the clubs that have came here so far, the management have said that we've absolutely smashed it. And obviously they've played in other venues and stuff as well already, so they were very impressed with all the things that we had set up. We've not had a single issue in terms of we've got the planning set aside for it if it was the case, but there's temperature testing coming on, and thankfully we've not had one single test being required on premises due to a temperature test or anything like that. So everything's went swimmingly so far. I mean, it's early season obviously, but no, everyone, both Manchester and Cheshire, were very complimentary of all the different processes, and there's a degree of it where we're having to ask them to have a bit of patience. So there's because I won't bore you too much with the details, and Mitchell, we'll probably try and avoid doing the same because we've had our heads in this for so much, but there's a yellow zone for press and there's a red zone for players and stuff like that. I say press, it's some other parties as well, but that's just the general outline. And Mitchell is in yellow zone and I'm in red zone, and we can talk to each other, but we can't intersect with each other or have any real face-to-face time, because the 2 zones are not allowed to interact with each other at all, and because of that, the way the venue works, it effectively the team has to take quite a long walk into the dressing room to avoid going near the entrance where the press would come in. So we are having to work with a lot of different parties and the referees and all that kind of thing to try and explain all this, but they all understand it's not a normal game day, it's not a normal time. And I mean, the clearest way of doing that is when you walk in, and it's just, I think I noticed on the BBL website officially our attendance was 4 was it for the game the other day. I don't know who they 4 were, but certainly not a lot of people there at all, and the atmosphere is very different, so that alone is quite an obvious memory of that, without having all the seating out and things like that. It's quite a different look. You've maybe seen some of the behind the scenes pictures and stuff that have been taken, or you can see the background of the stream that we have. It's a very different game night, so everyone's kind of pulling together and understanding that for the most part, and as I say, the feedback's been all good.
Good. Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, COVID must be hugely impacting on, you can tell that you're having to sort of, kind of second guess yourselves every which way you're going. Other than coronavirus, what is the hardest part of your job?
I'll let you go first on this one, Sean.
Sure. For me, it's probably managing time, I would say. I get a lot of communication, and it'll only ramp up because not everyone knows who I am and who my email address is at the moment, but I'm already getting an insane amount of emails and messages and all that kind of thing. So it's just making sure I dedicate and prioritise different things, and I can make sure I'm reaching everyone's expectations for different things. It's probably that aspect of it that's the hardest. I think it's kind of related, I suppose you said, without COVID, but it's been weird not being able to meet people face to face, because I started this job in September, the 1st of September, and I don't think I met Mitchell for a week or two. I didn't meet Gareth for a couple of weeks. I wasn't in the office for about 3 weeks. I'd met most of the, say, sponsors and the OSC and different bits and bobs all through this. So that's just a very unusual way to start a job. And the typical normal things that you would maybe shout across a desk or whatever can't happen as easy as it normally would. So it was difficult getting up to speed because of the restrictions and stuff like that. And then as it eased, obviously, we were in the office a little bit more. We got up to 5 days a week in the office, and then the recent additional measures came in place, and we're back to 1 and the odd game day in the office for the moment again. So we're back to it. But thankfully, I feel like I'm up to speed and I know what I'm doing now, kind of thing. But I'd say that managing expectations and certainly prioritising issues and making sure that I'm getting back to everyone and stuff like that.
Yep. Mitchell?
For me, it's kind of two-pronged. Pre-COVID, before all this stuff happened, I obviously was still with the Rocks. And the biggest challenge then was usually making sure that game days ran well and making sure the ticketing was sorted. That was always the biggest concern for game days. Make sure everyone had the right tickets, make sure everyone had the right allocations. But thankfully, that is it's more streamlined now. For when we come back, the preparations and setup is there, so that when we can have fans back, it should almost be a seamless transition from no fans to fans coming back in. Now, with the COVID stuff, the hardest thing is being able to adapt on a day-by-day basis. It's, as we said, every day is dynamic, and especially working from home, you never really know what's going to come up on any single day. It could be something with season tickets. It could be something with some issue with one of the owners, could be an issue with one of the sponsors. And because a lot of the time when game days aren't going on, I've got a lot more spare time than I really should have, I can be more adaptable and assist across other fields. I can help Sean with the admin side of things, or I can help him if he's got a specific issue with a sponsor, for example. He asks me to investigate it further so he can focus on something else.
You do have to be incredibly dynamic working the sport. Like, there's literally no day I go in and there's not something that we encounter that I've never encountered before. It's just constant from players, from anyone. It's just constant. So we do have to adapt.
Keeps you on your toes, keeps you excited and interested,
I
suppose.
It does.
Right, so we've covered the worst. What are the best parts of working for the Rocks?
Yeah, sure. I love working in sport in general. The Rocks I've enjoyed working with Gareth and Mitchell and Duncan very much so. They're actually a really phenomenal team to work with. So that's probably been the best part from what I've experienced so far. I wish I'd had more interaction with the fans. I don't mean on socials. I mean, like, obviously seeing them on a game day and going to events and stuff like that. I would have loved to had more of that. So that's something I always enjoy working in sport. Is that kind of interaction. But I would say the team so far has been great. Everyone's really supportive, knows their stuff, knows basketball. I love working in sport in general. It's fun. So yeah, I would say that.
Mitchell, best part?
Best part for me is by far is having the matches are always the big thing for me. More importantly, when the fans are there. That is.
Apologies, 2 seconds. I'm going to put my dog in.
Of course, now he's got to go. Yeah, so I'll just continue on. Oh, there's the dog. For me, it's game days with fans, without a doubt. There's no feeling in my mind like there is when you come to a Rocks game and the place is full of fans and they're all cheering and bouncing along with the songs and cheering on the game. I mean, I remember 2 or 3 real experiences in my life in terms of events. And one of them that sticks out the most is my first game coming to the Rocks as an intern. It's just, the crowd was phenomenal. And there's nothing like it. It was one of my favourite events in Scotland, if not the whole of the UK. So more of that.
They are good atmospheres, very easily to get hooked once you've been to a Rocks game.
Oh, 100%. And the sooner we do that, the better. But again, we have to follow these guidelines and make sure we're safe.
So, you're talking about the game day. What are your, like, you could talk about game days just now, or I think your main concerns might be fairly obvious right now, but in terms of when you're running even the normal game day, what are your maybe top 3 concerns? What would you be sitting and saying, right, I need to look out for this, whatever?
Okay, first one's always ticketing. It's making sure that in previous years had a lot of manual seat allocations, which we hopefully won't have many of next year, but in prior years, there's been a lot of manual seat allocation, so that's always been the priority number 1. Following that, it's probably making sure that all the players from both teams are all in, there's no issues, they don't have any concerns, nothing to worry about. Thirdly, it's making sure that the table and the announcer have everything they need. That is making sure they've got the playlist, to make sure they have a running time of what's going on, when's the spotlight coming on, when's the music getting started, when's the players coming out, when's the actual player intros, all that sort of thing. It makes the whole running thing. It's very much events management is the third one, but it kind of seeps into everything else.
Yeah.
Sean, I imagine, he's still involved in game day. It's not like it's just me. Sean is a massive part of it as well. So he hasn't got the experience with the fans yet, but he'll learn quickly.
Probably worth saying, in my previous role, I was game day manager of Glasgow Clan, so I know what it's like to run a game day, and I know the experience and issues that Mitchell's had and stuff like that. For me, at the moment, it's probably worth saying it's more, I make sure all the guys come in time, because the previously mentioned issue with Mitchell being yellow zone, he can't be in red zone, so I need to make sure the teams are coming in, everyone's sticking to the pretty rigid schedule that we've got, folk know where they're going, things like our match night officials are paid, things like that, all that, the kind of general admin stuff, making sure everything's in where it should be. And then I focus more, purely because it's my background, I focus quite a lot on making sure that our digital output's quite good. So we've put out our programme, we've put out our stream, we're getting clips, we've just started, that's another thing that we're saying, we're working on things. We've started putting clips live on Twitter of events that are happening. I'm working with a team of students from University of West of Scotland, just to make sure that they are running our social medias right. We're putting out the end of period updates and things like that, end of quarter updates and things like that. So just I kind of focus on digital. Once the game really starts, focus on our digital output and making sure everything's running well. And then I need to be there on hand, as does Mitchell, at all times, just in case whatever issues arrive. So someone's not in the right place at the right time, or I don't know, they need hand gel at such a place, or somebody's missing a bin. These are literally just small examples of things that have already happened.
Or a hook falls down.
Or that, or yeah, exactly. But yeah, just we both need to be on hand. And as I say, one of the main parts of that is because if there's an issue in yellow zone, I can't go there to sort it. And similar to Mitchell with red, so that's a kind of issue at the moment. But we've all got the radios, and any issues we talk to each other, and then we kind of watch the game sometimes.
You more than me.
I know you must actually sit there and go and have no idea what happened during that. What, as you kind of progress, what changes, is there anything that you're sitting saying, we're currently working on this change? What changes would you like to see at the Rocks?
That's a long list.
Yeah, the most urgent one that we're working on, and I'm literally scratching my head right now, but we are scratching our heads on it, is we want halftime pre-recorded video for the stream, so interviews and stuff like that. But I know other teams in the league do it, but it's nowhere near as easy a process as you would think it is. It's mind-bogglingly difficult. I thought it would be much easier than it is to do, and it's through the setup and the key motion system that we have, and the way it links in with the new Nunchi league-wide system. So that's probably the biggest priority one. We've got a big list of stuff that we're wanting to work on, but and it's not just it's a list of there's a list of stuff we can do, and then there's a list of stuff that's locked behind money, and there's a list of stuff that's even more locked behind COVID, so there's like a lot of hoops to jump through, but I'd say that's the biggest priority when I'm wanting to get action ASAP. We're literally working on it today, but whether we can get that up and running, we're not sure, but that's probably a good initial example of one.
Yeah, 100% agree with Sean on that one. That is our number one priority, is improving the game day product we put out there. So it's having the stuff for half time, if it's more dynamic stuff during the game. So, like for example, this year we've introduced multiple cameras, which I'm manning for the matches. So that's great fun. So that's one thing we've done right now so far, and so far the feedback we've gotten has been pretty good. It's just a matter of how can we make it better? How can we make the fan experience on game days, despite not being in the venue, as good as they can be?
Yeah, I have to say, I don't know how you keep your attention. I would get distracted. I've said this to you before. I would get so distracted by something that's going on in the background and go, "Oh, I need to move the camera." You're doing very well. I think everyone is pretty impressed with your camera work.
Honestly, I can't even tell you how I do it. I just go into a trance almost when I sit in front of that laptop and the cameras are going. I'm just like, okay, I know. I don't even watch the game. I just watch the cameras of what's going on. I occasionally flick my eyes up and say, okay, this is happening. Let's switch it now. And now. It's all instinct almost at this point.
And so, obviously everyone's dream is, and maybe, the kind of recent announcements are pointing that maybe there's a chance by the end of the season, who knows, to get fans back into the arena. Are you already thinking about how, if you would make changes to the game day experience, or is there anything that you're sitting thinking, yeah, we're working on this, or how would you improve it for fans when they can come back?
We have spoke about it. We just don't know what we're going to be allowed, if we're going to be allowed people in the court at half time, for example, and stuff like that. So it's hard. We've spoke at length actually on some ideas for like halftime games and shows and all this kind of thing, but we don't know if this season that's going to be a possibility. Not even, even if we are allowed people in, because is it going to be you're allowed in, but everyone has to be within 2 meters, everyone has to wear masks, blah, 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 in which case there's no chance you can have even kids playing basketball at halftime and stuff like that. So we've spoke about it briefly and we've got a few ideas, but actual finished article stuff we're way off, purely because we're way off on having people in.
Yeah, we're very much just kind of going with the flow. We can't really focus too much on the game day stuff in the future, because we need to make sure everything's going well right now. So that as Sean said, we've discussed a lot of ideas, from everything from the fans coming on the court at halftime to mascots or pre-game stuff on the concourse, or anything else you can think of. We've discussed almost everything. It's just a matter of, we don't know. The mist in front of us is pretty thick and we have no idea what's coming.
Yeah.
So just waiting the green light to kind of say, we're back to normal, here's what you can do, or once you know who they can let in or how many you can get in, then I suppose you can start to think about that.
Yeah.
Right, here's a big one. If the Rocks had their own arena, what would the business what business advantages would that bring?
There's a lot of potential with their own arena. I think the biggest one that could make a massive impact straight away would probably be the fact that capacity could go up, and it also means that we have access to other sources that maybe we don't have right now. For example, some of the deals we have in place mean that we don't actually have the ability to offer a lot of things we might like. For example, food and drink is one thing, for example. Because the deals are in place with the venue we're in, we don't have access to that, which means that we take none of the income on that side of things, which if you think about it, when you come to a game day, you tend to get a drink, get some popcorn, maybe a hot dog, a sweet of some sort. It's a lot of money that transfers hands, and the Rocks get none of that. That in itself would have a massive impact on the financial side of things for the Rocks.
Just thinking about it, there's tons. There's even the sponsorship opportunities from naming stadiums, the sponsorship just areas and opportunities that way. You could have a permanent store there. You could have you build a culture around basketball in the arena, and you have more of a youth development system that plays in there. You have the ladies team that plays in there. You could have bars in there, all sorts of opportunities. There's tons. It would be massive, obviously, as we've touched on, selling our own beer and be able to pick who provides our food and stuff like that. You could have a really good sort of match night package and link up with some really cool local restaurants and things like that to have, I don't know, a Bucks or pizza, for example, and stuff like that. Maybe pop-up things and stuff like that. So working with breweries and stuff like that, so they have maybe pop-up brewery stands. There's all sorts of I've worked Clan, who I previously worked for, were also talking about. I think it's just all minor teams talk about this, and that's the kind of stuff that we were looking at as well back then. So there's a massive host of opportunities. It makes things a lot easier just in terms of booking training times as well. As crazy as that would be, the Emirates is not at the moment perhaps, but usually a very busy venue, so trying to get particular training times can sometimes be difficult if we're wanting to do it with the normal times that we've booked in. We would have our own say of, we wouldn't have to go through anyone to get anything confirmed beyond pardon me, beyond the regular health and safety and make sure we're hitting all the normal standards and stuff like that. If we wanted to do something, we could just do it, simple as. So even minor things that we've done recently, so we're obviously not using the Tariflex court at the moment. We're putting stickers on the actual court, if you might have noticed. So we have to ask it. This isn't a problem, I'm just saying that this wouldn't have to happen. We would just put it down because it would be our venue and we could do what we want. Make the place a lot more Rocks branded as well, because we're a tenant in the Emirates now, rather than that being our rink. So you would have, everything would be absolutely plastered Rocks, put it that way.
Being your own master, I suppose, and
Yeah,
not
exactly.
going to having to constantly ask. Right, let's see if you get out of this one. Which of the Rocks team is the funniest?
Are we talking on the court or off the court?
Anywhere.
I'm not saying Sean. His dad jokes are terrible. They are horrendous.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, funniest. I mean, Johnny's pretty funny. Gareth's got a really good sense of humour as well.
He does. That was going to be my pick, and I didn't know if that's a bit controversial, because Gareth, known from what I've seen anyway, from everyone I was talking to, is this big kind of stoic figure who very straight face and stuff like that, but that's not what I've seen from him. Him and Johnny are a laugh together. I'd love to say I'd have had more interaction, and I have had a fair amount of interaction with them, but we've actually been trying to keep our distance as well, just with all the COVID stuff.
Of course. And it won't be the same, the kind of the normal way that you would build relationships, with all of this. Right, okay, well answered, right, so we're going to go with that. So that's out of, we're going to ask everyone this question, and then we'll maybe have a tally by the end of it. Maybe we could challenge them, maybe the OSC could challenge them to like a joke telling competition at the end of this.
I am, and as Mitchell's talked, I have the most horrendous dad jokes ever, and I love them, and yeah, so I'd be up for telling them, just because I like it when people don't laugh at my jokes. I probably get more a kick out of that than anything else.
So you've just answered the question on who tells the worst jokes. It's definitely you, Sean.
They're terrible. I do warn you, they're terrible.
Right, you can think this through, and maybe we can end this with one of your favourites, right?
Okay.
I'm logging up.
Right, which of the Rocks team, on or off the court, has the worst dress sense?
I'm not really seen them, so I can't really comment on that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. They're all young, relatively hip guys, and I've not seen anything. There's nothing that they've worn that I've been like, what the hell is that kind of thing. So no, I'm afraid I'm probably failing you on that one.
Everyone's dodging this question, right? Okay.
We've got little interaction with them. That's our excuse. We're kept in the office. We don't see them outside the Rocks very often. If they're not in training gear, we don't see them.
Yeah.
That's our excuse.
Yeah, I've only pretty much seen them in training gear, and obviously, as you say, that in normal times that maybe wouldn't have been the case, but it has been.
Okay, we'll let you off for that one. Right, if you could bring back a former player, right, wave a magic wand, they're fit and able to play, who would it be?
I mean, the obvious one would be Ali, but there's two that stick out to me, but for very different reasons. The first being Hayden Leska, fan favourite, very dynamic player, very talented, and would be an instant game changer if he came back to the Rocks. The second, it's a weird one, but I like Terrell Vincent from last year. A very good role player, played his spots, could shoot the ball very well, was a good op on both sides of the court, and I think he'd help the team a lot to have him on the side. But I think the common one that everyone will be talking about right now will be Ali.
Yeah.
Leicester.
Yeah.
I could go boring myself, and I could go Kieran, but I remember when I was young, probably I think it must have been the first time or the first few times I ever went to see Rocks. There was Jerry Williams was there. I always appreciate him as a player. So I guess either him or Kieran.
Okay. Yeah. I know, I think Kieran's that kind of legend, isn't he? You know, very current legend that everyone just absolutely adores. All right. Yeah, the alley one, I think that came as quite a shock to everyone, didn't it? Everyone's like, what?
It was a shock to us as well.
Yeah. Sorry?
Back in the UK, though, that's the main thing.
Yeah, it's good. It is definitely good to have him back, because I think everyone was really, everyone was really disappointed to lose him, weren't they? She says being the one that won his kit. Right, so are you a basketball fan? Did you play basketball yourselves when you were younger at all, or is this a kind of, basically they want to know if you played basketball?
I'll let Mitchell answer the long one. I'll just jump in quickly with my answer. No, I don't play basketball. I tried to try out I went to Trinity High School and then tried to try out for the team, didn't get in the team, and that's my entire history of playing basketball effectively. I ended up getting in the rugby team, playing rugby. I play hockey a bit and football and stuff like that. But I'm probably saying I'm absolutely terrible at every sport I've ever played. That's why I'm this side of the court or the ice or the field. For the most part, I'm not particularly talented as an athlete, put it that way.
But that's important because, right, I'm going to put my own day job hat on here. Like, that's one of the things that we try and explain to young children, especially with the Rock School programme as well, is that, it's not just the guys on the court or on the field, on the, pitch, whatever. They're not the only people that allow for a career in sport. And if you're interested in sport, you don't need to be the elite athlete to then continue. And even if you are the elite athlete, there's plenty of them that become injured and need a fallback plan. So yeah, but your basketball career is obviously even better than mine, Sean, because I've never even tried out for a team.
I mean, I love sport, and I've always been really interested in the business side of sport and the money side of sport and how fans interact with companies. And I've always been really interested in the psychology behind fans and stuff like that as well. But no, as an athlete and stuff, I was absolutely useless.
Right, Mitchell, give us a glory story. Come on.
Oh, okay. So I discovered basketball at 16 when I was in high school. That was when I first got introduced to it, and I was hooked from the minute I stepped on the court. I ended up signing up to play the under-18 squad for the City of Edinburgh Kings. Didn't get any minutes. I was just a training player, to say the least. Played for their local league team for a couple of years, then moved. When I went into university, I went to a local League Division 2 team. When I was a starter there, in my last year at uni, I played for the Edinburgh Uni 3rd team while also playing local league. And then I played for a local League Div 1 team in Edinburgh the last 2 or 3 years. I was out with an injury as of January this year, and I didn't play any of last season at all. I have intention of going back and do love playing. As Sean will tell you, I'm incredibly competitive about everything. And
even throwing paper into a bin to give you an idea.
But yeah, I've played basketball for the best part of a decade now, and I have every intention of going back as soon as lockdown ends and I can get back on the court.
Good. I'm glad to hear you're going back. Right. Okay. How many times have you been asked this question, Mitchell? My last one.
Okay, here we go.
What's happening with the season tickets?
Okay, so the current status of where we are is that season tickets, as of this point, will be fully refunded to everyone.
Will we give them a date on this? Today is the 2nd of December. It might not go out today, and there might be changes after this.
We sent an email out today to the season ticket holders that were left, basically announcing that the full refund was coming. But basically, the offer that we had from the league was not matching what we intended to offer the season ticket holders. As a result, we've decided that in good faith, we can't keep the money that the fans have given to us. So instead, we're giving them a full refund for the packages that we have. That doesn't mean that we don't want them to return. We'd more than happy to welcome their support, but we'd prefer they do so through the BBL player, which is being set up, or by going through our merchant, going that way. The refund process, the initial refund process for the first wave of season tickets should be this week. After that, it's as soon as the ticket line stuff gets sorted, which we started the process today, shortly after the email was sent out to season ticket holders. So I'm going to be generous and say before Christmas.
Okay.
I'm not going to be any specific than that at this point.
So now the BBL, let's get this right. The BBL have now got a package to watch all the games.
Yes.
Which costs £20, $20.99, 20 thereabouts.
$19.99.
Okay, so let's call it £20, right? To watch all the games.
Every single game, home and away, for every team. The only exceptions being Bristol and their home games because they're doing their own thing.
Okay.
And Worcester's not on the player, but I believe they're doing it free on YouTube as well. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. And then when fans now sign up to this, they can choose a team, is that right?
Yes. So when you start the subscription process, there's a stage in it that'll ask you where you'd like the money to go, realistically. It's so that some of the more diehard fans, the passionate fans about certain teams, can select which team gets the money they pay in. So at this stage, you could, if you wanted to, you could select the Glasgow Rocks, and then all the money that you pay towards this BBL player would go straight to us, and it wouldn't go split across the whole league.
No, it is worth making comment that, and I know there's a lot of floating fans in the BBL who maybe haven't committed to a team. There's an option where you can put no one, in which case it then gets divided by 11 over the teams. But obviously we would promote teams from our fans to please select us, because it would mean that we would get the revenue from it.
Okay, which then kind of gives you some money back, because obviously you're refunding everything, and we should say it's £20 or $19.99 a month. Yes. Over 5 months. Or
£5 per game.
Okay. And
in which case it goes to the home team from the game that you're purchasing.
Oh, so if you go for the £5, so if we picked a Giants versus Rocks game, it would go to, and you paid the £5, you can't choose for it to go to Rocks, it goes to Manchester.
Yeah, that's certainly the indication I've had.
Okay, and then if they sign up to the £20 a month, then they can choose that it goes to the Rocks, and that's the way they get all of the games, but they can also choose that they're giving money back to the Rocks that way.
Yeah, and there's no money getting taken, there's no cut getting taken off the subscriptions. Everything that goes to the club. The only thing is there was a setup cost that the clubs have paid, but there's no actual deduction per. It's not like 20% of whatever is getting allocated to whatever the money that you pay is going straight to the club.
And then there was a thing on the email that said about, I'll get this wrong. It said that except for games that are being shown by Sky, what does that mean?
So if I remember this correctly, and I think that it's on the BBL website, so I think it's on the bbl.org.uk/watch for further information. But from what I remember, what it basically means is if for any Sky game that's shown, you can watch it for free on BBL Player, but it's done through the key motion system.
Oh, so they still get to see it?
Still see it, but they won't get the full production value of the Sky Sports product. They have to get that through Sky Sports.
Got you. So it's not the same whole quality, etc. It's different, right? Got you. That explains that, because everyone kind of went, what's that? All right. Okay. So basically, we want all Rocks fans to choose Rocks, essentially.
Please, yes.
Okay. Great. Gentlemen, your grilling is over. It has been absolutely lovely chatting to you, an absolute pleasure. Can I just say thank you very, very much to you both. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
No problem.